So Derek, something you specifically bring expertise in, I think, is experience on both the agency and the in-house side of content marketing. We'd love to hear at a high level what that looks like and what you felt in both those environments.
Sure. I mean, so from the agency perspective, I think there's always the goal of having that really close lockstep work across all the marketing efforts that another company has, but oftentimes there's still that bit of distance because you're not in the same offices every day. So at times that maybe means you don't quite have, maybe you don't have the buy-in, or it takes a little more work to get that buy-in. Having been in-house now with CXL for about a year and a half, it's nice that you are in the same Slack threads as everyone else, and you're talking to those same people every day. So when it comes to being able to take some more risks with some of the stuff that you're doing for content, you have, I think, a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like from a risk-taking standpoint, we have to earn that, right? That almost comes at like month, if we're lucky and we're just crushing it for a client, which not going to do most of the time, 6 to 12 month range or something like that, we can start putting some stuff in there that we feel like has a chance, could either go big or maybe fizzle out.
Right.
But if a client is on board with that, but it's one of those things where it's almost a scale where month one, we have to take zero risk because you have to make a good impression up front.
Sure.
I don't know if that was your impression as well.
Sure, yeah, no, definitely. And I think as far as then you look at like the speed of how quickly you can maybe have some of those exponential results, knowing that often the bigger risk ideas are the ones that also have the potential to sometimes have the biggest impact. And so in-house, you can kind of walk in day one and say, hey, look, I have this wild idea, but let's try it. And you can actually gauge from looking, from talking and looking that person in the face, whether they're really bought into that or whether they're sort of saying they are, which maybe you're trying to read across the table more often in the agency setting. But at the same time, you look around here and I see, dozens of desks that are filled with content marketers, people you can bounce ideas off of, people who are working on lots of different sites and can bring in lots of different ideas. At the same time, it's easy when you're stuck in-house, you're looking at the same website, the same type of content, you don't have that same pool of people to bounce those ideas off of. And I'm sure you guys get plenty of ideas from, oh, hey, we tried this on this site, or we can almost run experiments across sites and see, does this actually scale for different sites? And then can we apply that and make that part of our regular process?
For sure. That definitely is something that we get through assimilation and having so many people that have worked on a similar asset that didn't work or what have you, or if we're doing something link generation wise, like did we do something in this vertical and just it didn't resonate with that audience? That's definitely expertise we can bring. Another thing I think about, at least for the business standpoint, is, and I'm curious if and it probably depends on the business, but I feel like there's almost more time pressure to move fast. So almost that could make up for the in-house, where they could think in-house costs less, but almost the way agency is designed, we're probably way more productive than most in-house setups, such that can rebalance that.
Definitely. I get that. I mean, I remember that from doing it. I mean, there's the pressure of every month you have reporting, you have to show what you've done, the results that you've turned in. Certainly at times, depending on kind of where you are in the life cycle of a company, there have been times where we've been pivoting something in-house and we kind of know, okay, in a few months, we're going to want to really hit hard on certain content marketing things. But until now, that's not really the priority of what we're doing. So you do get some of those periods where, and some of that can be beneficial. Like sometimes you do have, maybe a lull where it's like a month where, for instance, for us, like December is a really slow month, probably is for most B2B companies. But that's basically every year I get a few weeks to kind of do something a little more involved because I get outside that normal window of having to publish stuff week by week, which maybe you don't quite get that flexibility in the agency at times, which has its benefits of sort of forcing you, like it kind of keeps that regular pattern of progress going maybe a little more efficiently. But
it's almost the reverse, where our team feels extreme pressure in that month because we have a smaller window to achieve the same outcomes, especially from an outreach standpoint and things like that, and also a content production standpoint for sure, because you have a smaller window, there's less margin for error there. Clients are a little more understanding of if we have slightly less outcomes in this month, we don't try to achieve that, but if it's like 20% under in December, they get that, I think, knock on wood. But we try to completely avoid starting engagements in December and November because same things we just talked about, risk, do they understand that? All those things can kind of work against you as an agency.
Sure. I think talking about it now and thinking about it now, I definitely get the sort of grass is greener perspective of times when you're in-house and you kind of wish you had the agency to either bounce ideas off somebody or maybe a little more regular cadence to your work. And then I definitely remember being in an agency and then going in-house and being like, man, it's really nice not to sort of live and die by a KPI that may or may not be fully representative of the quality of the work that you're being able to deliver, and to have that little bit longer buy-in from the person in charge of hiring and firing you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, there's no perfect scenario. I think there's pros and cons of each. As a content marketer, I think it's probably, I don't know if you'd agree with this, it's good to have both experiences under your belt eventually.
And certainly starting out in an agency setting is great as far as your ability to learn, because you're going to get exposed to more websites, different strategies. You're going to have a chance. I think the learning curve is greater. Mm-hmm. And I would actually even say, from my experience at either agency or in-house, I think there are actually a lot of benefits if you're starting, I'm sure everybody comes out of college at 22 and you think, oh, I want to go be a content marketer for Nike or like some massive company. But you learn so much working on some of the smaller sites, because it's not that hard to get 100 links if you're working on a project for Nike. It's pretty hard if you're working for a local business or a smaller SaaS startup. So I think as far as the skill development, if you have an opportunity, A, to be in an agency, and B, to be in an agency that's going to give you exposure to lots of different companies, smaller companies, I think that's probably that was my experience, and I'm grateful for that, as sort of having a really sharp and steep learning curve.
For sure, I'd agree with that. Well, yeah, good answers, Derek. And if anyone at home has any of their own experiences in-house versus agency and wants to leave those in the comments, would love to hear that. If you like this, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and let us know what you thought. Thanks for watching.